Live.
Welcome back, friends and family, to another episode of the Backdoor Cut Show. Thanks for listening to us wherever you get your audio by searching the Backdoor Cut Show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all those cool places. Also, you can catch us on Dash Radio's Nothing But Net channel. And right now, we're also streaming live on the Periscope feed for _Barnburner and also the Barnburner YouTube channel. We come to you hot off the heels of Miami wrapping up Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals, and we finally have the slate for the championship round for the NBA. We'll talk through that today. We've got special guest with us, repping his Miami Heat gear, so I know he's pretty excited, feeling himself today. We'll go around the horn. Rich, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. You know, just got to wrap up a pretty exciting Western and Eastern Conference Final Series, and I'm looking forward to the finals kicking off and seeing my Lakers do their thing. So I can't wait.
Sam, what about you, man? How are you?
Man, Zach, I need some more energy from you, man. Like, we've got a finals matchup. We got LeBron James playing his former team in the Miami Heat. We've got his legacy becoming a 4-ring player and jumping into another echelon of NBA history on the line. We've got Jimmy Butler, his first finals appearance, and a weirdly young Miami Heat squad. Tyler Hero has been playing excellent basketball. We've got a Bam Adebayo in year 3 already as the arguably best player on that team. Definitely led his team tonight. I'm sure we'll get into that. And it's a really exciting finals matchup. The 5th seeded team is now in the finals. They're the 3rd team that are 5th or lower seeded to advance to the NBA Finals. I'll give you guys some guesses on who the other 2 are. I tweeted one, but what do you guys think were the other 2 5 or lower seeded teams to make the NBA Finals?
How recent? What was the other?
1990 and forward.
Was the Magic one of them?
No. The Houston Rockets of 94-95 and the 1999 New York Knicks. The 8th seed.
Jeff Van Gundy.
Who advanced to the NBA Finals under Coach Jeff Van Gundy. So it's exciting times, man. The bubble has definitely paid off. It's been well. Everyone's been healthy. No COVID positive tests. The NBA seems to have pulled it off. And the NBA Finals starts Wednesday. But I would be remiss if we didn't kick it to Collins right now. Jonathan Collins, a Heat fan extraordinaire. And not just one of those LeBron Heat fans, mind you. A Heat fan ranging back to the peak Dwayne Wade years of the mid-2000s. So why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about your fandom of the Heat, why you love the Heat in general, and then also why you love this team and what you think their chances are against the Lakers in the 2020 NBA Finals.
So Jonathan Collins, been a Heat fan back since Dwayne Wade played for him. Just really loved his game ever since he came out of Marquette. Just loved the way he played. Fall down 8 times and he gets up every time. Like he just doesn't stay down. So love the way he plays, and I think that's kind of similar to how the Heat play now. It's just like they're a hard team to keep down, and I love when teams just play hard. And so think what chances do they have of beating LeBron? That's my issue right now. So I'm happy as a Heat fan that they made it to the championship round, but it's like, man, I kind of wish Boston would have made it in the sense of like wanting to see them play versus the Lakers because of star talent.
Wait, did you just say you kind of wish Boston had advanced to the finals instead of your own team? What is that?
Because of star talent. Like, I just don't think the Heat are ready at this moment to match up with the Anthony Davis and LeBron James. I think their role players are way better. I think the Heat, as far as role players go, are way better. I think Jimmy Butler's a great player, but just as far as like how he plays the game, he's not the traditional star that's going to go out there and go for 30 points or 40 points every night and put his team in a position to win that way. And I just think at some point during the finals, you're going to need that guy.
What do you think, Rich?
I mean, I feel him. I agree with him. You know, I wanted to see the Celtics too, as a Laker fan. You know, I honestly thought that the Celtics were gonna. I thought the series was gonna go 7 from the jump, and I thought the Celtics were gonna pull it out. But the Heat, I mean, hats off. Like they stuck together. And I think coming in, we kind of talked about earlier in the earlier months that the Heat were kind of built for this in a way with just their, you know, the way they run their system and that Heat culture they always speak about. Had a great article on ESPN early this week that kind of really dove deep into that Heat culture. But I think that while Boston had the better talent, I think Miami was the better team. I think Boston possesses a lot of isolation scorers who know how to go get their own bucket, but seeing them play collectively just kind of, it's kind of hot potato, go get your bucket. And I think their lack of a true starting center big really showed in the series. I think Bam, this was really his coming out party. He was already a beast, but dude is just, he's the future. I look forward to seeing him play for years to come. But hats off to the Heat. Hats off to Jimmy Butler for, really buying in and coming to a place where he felt he would really fit in. And it worked. He had a low-key free agent signing. He had a lot of things said about him at his previous stops. And it seems like, the Heat love him. His teammates love him. But, yeah, I think this finals might get ugly. So, yeah, we'll see. 4-1, baby.
You mentioned Bam. Bam was fantastic today to close out the series. He really just decided, I'm just taking this game over. He ended up with 32 points. He got to the line 5 or 6 separate times. He also had 5 assists. He's an underrated passer, I think, and obviously a great rebounder as well, especially in a matchup with someone like Boston who doesn't have – they got a lot of wing guys, but not like a big, strong guy. Tice is kind of a stopgap for that, but he's in no way the caliber of player that Bam is. And I think as a Memphis fan, that's someone – Memphis Tigers, let me clarify. That's kind of the player that you hope Precious Achiuwa becomes in the league. That's kind of who I've comped him to for the past – since – towards the end of last season. I think that's kind of the ceiling that he can get to. Similar body type. He's not Bam's not stretching the floor that much, really killing anyone from 3, but he can do so many of the other things. Precious has a lot of work to do on the offensive end, but defensively, he's already a beast, has a nose for the ball, for rebounding, pretty good passer. I think that's kind of what you want him to be. Obviously, Bam's an all-star, so that's a pretty high ceiling, but that's where I'd like to see, Precious. He's already older and a little bit more mature. But, yeah, fantastic performance today by Bam. And then just a lot of the Heat guys stepped up, started the game kind of slow, but, Duncan Robinson, and as he's done time and time again, come in and just casually hit 5 threes. What if the Grizzlies had someone who could do that? How much would that change the entire game for them? They have Jaren who can do that, but he's pretty much the only guy at this point, I feel like.
Yeah, the Heat closed the game with a lineup that didn't have Jay Crowder or Dragic in it, I don't think. So that was interesting. We've seen Hero close a lot of these games. Kind of playing like point guard. He rebounds his ass off at the guard position, which is something I always notice and am always impressed by. But it will be tough to go in against the whistle and the star power of LeBron and Anthony Davis. Let's just face it, superstar whistles is a thing. And it's just the way it works. And I think we're going to see a lot of that in the finals. Hopefully the whistle isn't as hot in general on both sides of the floor. I'd rather just watch him play and see what Bam does defensively against Anthony Davis. That'll be a cool matchup. No one can stop him, but that's an interesting guy to throw at him. as far as possible guys go, he's about as good as a bet you can imagine to guard AD. And then who on the Lakers is guarding all of the shooters on the Heat? You've got you hope that KCP can give you some good minutes. You hope that Avery Bradley's not here and hasn't been the whole time. That's the guy that I'm sure the Celtics the Lakers are missing and wish they had on the perimeter. But it should be an exciting series. But I don't know who they throw on LeBron. It's probably just kind of a dealer's choice of their wings, but they're just going to hunt Duncan Robinson and hopefully get switches and get Duncan Robinson on LeBron, and that'll be kind of a tough beat going forward for the Heat defensively. But I'm excited, man. I think it'll be a great series. I think here's a thing that definitely came out of this, and that's that Spoelstra is for sure a top 3 coach in the NBA now, and I think there's no disputing that. I definitely second guessed him when he first got the big 3 back in 2010, because I was like, it's hard to tell if you're a good coach because you should win with this team. So I didn't say he was bad or good. I just really didn't know. But I think after losing LeBron and then kind of going through that small rebuild that he did, drafting well, you get Hero and Bam at 14 or whatever, which is incredible. And then building up to this point, it's hard to dispute the fact that he's a top 3 coach, given what he's done this year and kind of getting this new team together. we just talked about how the Clippers couldn't get their shit together because they're a new team and they flamed out. But on the other side, then you got the Heat, which are basically a ragtag group of rookies. And I mean, think about Jay Crowder. It gets traded midseason and becomes like a pivotal piece of this team because of the Heat culture we talked about. So that's exciting for Spo. It's good to see him there too. And then, I don't know. I mean, NBA finals start Wednesday night, and it's going to be late games because the LA team. So we'll see like 8:00 Central every night, but I'll be tuned in for every game. And I mean, what are our predictions here? Like, Zach, how many games do you think this goes?
Ooh, I'm just gonna toot my horn because I've probably been doing it since our first show at the beginning of the playoffs, where I said Heat were my underdog team. So I'm gonna go against the grain, and I think that Miami's gonna pull it out in 7. I'm sticking with them. They haven't done me wrong so far. All the Boston folks were mad at me. They thought Boston was going to win at 4-1. Yeah, I'm talking to you guys. Guess what? That didn't happen. So I'm rolling
Heat.
with them. They done nothing. The barn's burning, so I'm rolling with the Heat.
Rich, I assume you're going to pick Lakers, but the question is, how many games you give them?
Oh man, yeah, I'm definitely picking Lakers. I mean, the Heat they did their thing, but they also randomly got a lot of threes this game from Andre Iguodala, which will not be happening. Spoelstra has this unique thing that he likes to do where he throws Solomon Hill out there for 2 minutes to just run back and forth down the court. And if he does that against the Lakers, that's going to get exposed. And so you know what?
So we'll give you 2 really good minutes, man.
Yes,
no mistakes.
There, man. He looks he really looks like he's seen some shit. So definitely he'll just strike fear in somebody's heart.
He's going for that club trillion is what he's trying to do.
Yeah, he does look like he just camped for 3 or 4 weeks, in the middle of Central Park.
Straight up. But I respect the Heat for sure. I want to say 4-1, but I'm gonna go 4-2. I trust the Heat to get hot one of these games. Just Duncan or Tyler is just fucking insurmountable. And then there's always that toss-up game. So I'm gonna go 4-2. Lakers still.
Collins.
Man, I really think it's hard to count the Heat out at this point. Who would have thought they would have been here and had only lost 3 games getting to this point? And I think one of the things that makes Spoelstra such a great coach is that he adapts to the situation. So, man, Solomon Hill playing the past couple games, who would have thought he would have played, and just kind of going small with no center on the court at times. So I think Spoelstra kind of just figures out a way to win when it doesn't look like this team should even be in the finals at this point. So, like Zach said, it's kind of hard to count them out right now. So I'm gonna give Miami in 7, man. Miami in 7.
But you think it still goes 7? I think, man, my heart is Lakers in 6 because I think if it goes to 7, then the Heat win because they're just masters of close games, and just there's no way LeBron wants to see a Game 7 against this Heat team. Because that's when everything's out the window. The calls can't be as egregious, and the referees kind of swallow their whistles a little bit more, and that works to every advantage too. I mean, he's won big Game 7s in his career, but I think that's kind of the way it breaks down. I mean, the Heat's best thing was they have a big rotation. They play a lot of guys. I know you saw Solomon Hill get some minutes. We mentioned that, but they play 9-10 guys regularly in these games, as opposed to Boston, who played basically 6-7 man rotation. And the Lakers can have a pretty big rotation as well, depending on if Dwight or JaVale McGee see a lot of minutes. Do we anticipate those guys getting a lot of run in these finals? We saw them use them a lot against Jokic, who's kind of a traditional big man. We saw him hit more threes, but not quite as mobile as Bam. Do we see a lot of Dwight and JaVale? Rich, what do you think?
I think, we always look at the matchups, and that's kind of dictated, why JaVale and Dwight didn't really play much in the Houston series. I'm trying to think who they would guard. Because if Coach Vogel had to kind of choose, I think he's going to run with Dwight a little bit more than JaVale. Neither one of them are too mobile, but JaVale's just really not fleet of foot. Doesn't really give you much in the game besides size. And it's not like Miami is this huge team where that size is just imposing. So I think Dwight will probably get a few minutes just to kind of irritate Bam, just like he kind of irritated Jokic, to try to get him in foul trouble, rile him up. Not really out there to do anything but, kind of be a pass, grab rebounds, block shots. So I don't see either of them playing a huge role. I see Keith getting a lot of big minutes, Vogel going small. And I'm interested to see who's going to match up with Bam. I'm thinking Markeith. I'm thinking probably Markeith, honestly, if I had to pick somebody, because I just don't think Dwight or JaVale can really keep up with him. He's too skilled. He's too mobile. So, yeah, we might not see a lot of the two bigs this series if I was a betting man.
Yeah, I mean, so I think if the Lakers go small, that plays more into Miami's hands. I think they'd probably like that. But, the Lakers are versatile as well. They against the Blazers, and they really kind of went small and couldn't play a lot of Dwight and JaVale minutes, and you had to D up those guards on the Blazers. So we'll see. I don't know what to expect, but I think Spo's probably the better coach between him and Vogel. So we'll see that go on, and the chess match maybe kind of one-sided with respect to adjustments. But Zach, what do you see being the key thing in this series here?
So there's something we haven't talked about at all yet. So there's been a man
Calipari taking credit for Bam Adebayo being good,
and Tyler Hero, and all those guys.
Is that what I decided that on the podcast I need to go back through my tweets when I'm sort of tipsy and talk about those hot button issues. But yeah, Calipari is now taking credit for every Kentucky player ever being good, despite the fact that there are things called statistics, and you can go back and see that he wildly misused all of them in college, and them being good now has absolutely nothing to do with him. So, and in fact, if I may say, I think he actually cost them draft position and thus money by not playing them the way they should have been played. So therefore, Hero and Bam go at 14. Whereas now, if there was a redraft, they'd be in the top five without a doubt. For sure. Without a doubt. I mean, after 1 or 2 years of NBA play. So it's not like it took him forever to develop. It was kind of his fault. But anyway, Kyle, great developer of NBA talent.
That's what he's known for. Not so much the recruiting side, but the coaching and in-game development and in practice and stuff. That's really where his reputation comes from. So we have a guy in Miami who was brought in maybe specifically for this moment. And he may have been on the Memphis Grizzlies roster. And he may have hit 4 threes tonight.
Big Iggy minutes
real curious how that's going to play out. So, we got Justice Winslow traded to Memphis. He's obviously a great defender. Of course, he's not playing right now with his injuries. But a big part of the reason that Iggy was brought into Miami was in the off chance that Miami made the finals and had to match up with the Lakers. So we will get to actually experience that. So I think that's a key matchup to keep an eye on. Just kind of see where that goes. See if Iggy, his fresh legs, because he really hasn't been a factor for Miami so far until tonight. So was tonight his springboard to what he's supposed to try to do in the next series? I don't know. What do you think, Collins?
I think Iggy's a gamer. You just got certain guys that when it comes to big games, closeout games, needing to reach to that next level, step up and guard the opposing team's best player. I think Iggy's proven time after time that he will do it. He may not look the best in the first few games, or he may look like he shouldn't be playing, or maybe you need to put Solomon Hill out there. But I think when it comes to closing the game out, I think Iggy's a guy that you can trust, whether you're playing them at center, whether you're playing them guarding LeBron James, whether he's on the perimeter passing for you. I think he can just fill so many roles for you that it's hard to keep a guy like that. Think a guy like that's not going to impact this series. Miami's got so many wings that I feel like they can throw at LeBron James, Iggy, Jay Crowder, Jimmy Butler. I really think it's going to come down to are the Lakers going to impose their will inside, or is Miami going to get off from shooting threes? And I think those are going to be the difference makers as far as whether we'll see the Lakers big stay on the court or whether the Lakers will have to go small, and going small is Anthony Davis at the center, Kyle Kuzma or Markieff Morris at the power forward position.
Yeah, that's good. Good analysis. I think that I don't know. I'm really excited to see the series and see what happens. And this is a kind of a unique deal because we're in the bubble and there's no home court, and it's I don't know if that makes things more fair, as in the best teams truly did advance, or if maybe the Bucks would have advanced because they were nasty at home, or hell, even the Sixers, who were nearly undefeated at home and then well below 500 on the road. It's just it's hard to guess how it affects people. But LeBron, you could tell this has been a business trip the whole time. All the, the whole social media presence and his all of his comments to media and all the videos that are captured behind the scenes that ordinarily we wouldn't see, but because the bubble reporters are kind of back in the hallways about him just kind of taking a more Jordan-esque approach. I feel like he's just got his head down and he's like, I think he sees this as his opening. I mean, he's now playing a Miami Heat team that none saw advancing to the finals now. He is, clearly on the better, or he has probably the two best players on the court on his team. Now we can talk about after that how probably the next like 7 are Heat players, but that is they probably do have the two best players on the court in any given game. I think he can smell blood in the water, and he could see this is his chance to get ring number 4. And I mean, I think we're going to get the very best LeBron James that exists at age 35, which is still hella good. So there's that storyline as well, and that's going to be a scary thing for Heat fans. But it should be a really fun series with anything. Any other analysis of the Celtics? I feel like Celtics are a couple years away. They're like 2 years away from being 2 years away, like our guy Bruno Caboclo. Yeah, but they obviously are young. We heard it time and time again. I'm fucking tired of hearing how young Jason Tatum is. I'm really tired of hearing how great a young man Jaylen Brown is. I'm also really tired of seeing Deuce, Jason Tatum's son, on the sideline, and as if none of the other guys have kids. Like he's not that cute, man. Like he's just a kid. The kids are cute. Like and he wears a shirt that they put on him, and he could not give a shit less about the game. In fact, I would argue that Deuce is very disrespectful to the game of basketball. Just looking on his iPad and watching whatever's on there. So I honestly anti-Deuce over here. So I will say I'm not excited to see that again, and very glad we don't have to watch the Celtics antics again. But Celtics, they put all their money into their wings. They've got incredible wings. They've got Kemba Walker at the point, and they decide for their big man, they're just going to big man of the year and just try to figure out like some cheap guy they can sub in. And we saw that didn't pan out as well for this Celtics team this particular time. Do you think the Celtics strategy going forward is a winning strategy? Can they win just subbing in a Tice or insert cheap big man of the year?
I feel like we've heard so much about the future and the future and the future with the Celtics, and it's always the future, the future, the future. But I really don't know the sustainability of that model if you're not like really progressing. If they might have peaked with that roster and got fool's gold when they advanced to the Eastern Conference Finals that year when Kyrie got hurt. Because one, like Gordon Hayward, he wanted no part of this game, no part of this series. He's just not the same player. That's no fault of his. He's coming off an injury, I understand, but he looked lost out there, honestly. And I don't know if maybe a veteran might need to come in there. I don't know, because it's Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, of course, still very young, very talented, but I don't know who they really lean on as that voice of reason to tell.
A winning vet too. Yeah, Kemba's never been there. Yeah, right. He's a vet. He's a great guy, but you got to have a guy that's been there.
That can talk to Marcus Smart and tell him stop fucking driving to the cup and just throwing up wild shit. Like you're off, like reining him in. Because, I think they're going to be around. And, of course, Deuce is going to be around. I think the NBA always fixates on a child. I think when I was younger, I remember seeing Jason Kidd's son so much. He had this big-ass head. That's all I remember. Jason Kidd's son had a big-ass head. And he was always like at the All-Star weekends behind the bench and shit. I was just always wondering what the fuck happened to Jason Kidd's like big-headed ass son. But he kind of reminded me of Deuce in a way. But Deuce doesn't give a fuck. Like he's just chilling. Like, no. But yeah, your point. Like everybody has some kids there, damn near. Like they all have children. But yeah, I think a winning vet, is their next step in their development. I think somebody to come in, to your point, like Kemba is not that. Who can kind of steady the ship in a way. I don't even know if I would classify Gordon Hayward as a winning vet. He hasn't really advanced that far in his career either. So yeah, I think they're still a piece away, but also I don't think that this 3-headed like center experiment thing that's sustainable. Tice gives you what he can. Robert Williams does what he does. He's I think going to always be a project. It's just a little rough around the edges with his game. And then Cantor is a fucking bucket. He can score the fuck out of the ball, but he doesn't do shit else, really. And that's the problem. So yeah, I think Boston's got to make some decisions. They have all these first round picks again. They might need to package that and try to get somebody because they have the other 3 rookies this year, like Carson Edwards from Purdue and Romeo Langford from Indiana. All these more guards and wings. Like they're not even drafting bigs. So I mean, because I don't consider Grant Williams a big. And so I don't know, man. They're they got to do some work this summer for sure. But we're definitely going to always continue hearing about how young Jason Tatum is and how great it is that Jaylen Brown is such a intellectual young man that knows how to play chess.
And it is great. It is great. But I think they treat the NBA Finals audience as if the first game you tune into is that game.
Every time.
Which I have to assume that's not the case. I mean, if you're watching the Eastern Conference Finals, it's doubtful you're like flipping on Game 5 and you're like, well, I don't know what the fuck's going on in this series, but I guess I'll just watch this game. Right. And then you're like, oh, Deuce, I didn't know about him. Like, I just can't see that being the case. But, the Celtics need to go get Western Conference semifinalist Jeff Green from the Rockets. I feel like that could be the missing piece, for no, they do not need to do that. Actually, they do because fuck them. Collins, you want to write the Celtics a eulogy since your team just defeated them? Do you have any parting words for the Celtics or their head coach, Brad Stevens, who a lot of people love a lot, but I don't know. He's been to a lot of Eastern Conference Finals. He's not a bad coach, but what do you got on Brad Stevens right now?
Nice guy. He's a nice guy, man.
Oh no, undoubtedly.
That's what I can say about Brad Stevens.
Yeah,
yeah. Not going to curse you out in a huddle or anything like that. But I don't know, man. I think Brad Stevens got some more room to grow. I will say he was a great collegiate coach at Butler, getting them to national championships. Even though he couldn't pull them off, just getting Butler there is an accomplishment in itself. I really don't know how high I am on his coaching right now because, man, looking at his talent compared to Miami's talent, you would have thought this would have been a closer series. And I do think that the Celtics need to do some revamping of their roster. One thing I didn't like about this series that the Celtics didn't do was I would have played Cantor more. Like, what does Tice really give you? What does Grant Williams? What does Robert Williams? What do they really give you? At least Cantor's giving you 8 or 10 points in 3.5 seconds as long as he's on the court. Like, at least he's going to give you a bucket down there. I mean, and that's something that wins you basketball games. If you can outscore the other team, man, you're going to be in a great position. And then one of the things that Eric Spoelstra does well is he adjusts, man, plays a zone, plays a man. I think Brad Stevens has to take chances where he will switch up his defense or switch up his schemes to not just play basketball one certain way, like your turn, my turn basketball. And then, man, yeah, they got to put Marcus Smart back in his place. If Marcus Smart is the voice of reason on the team, I'm going to go with the other team all day long because Marcus Smart shouldn't be out there starting. He should be out there. Marcus Smart is good for coming off the bench and being that energy guy just to kind of keep you going while some of your starters get a break. He's not supposed to be out there jacking up a lot of threes and getting to the rim or keeping you in the game. That's not what Marcus Smart is meant to do. So I think they got to revamp and maybe bring in some veterans and maybe another big in that case. But I think Brad Stevens has got to try to switch some things up, just not stick to playing basketball one way.
So you think he's got a little bit of Coach Bud syndrome?
Yeah.
I'm just going to – like, my thing with Coach Bud with Giannis, I was telling Mason this when the Bucks were down to the Heat. I was like, man, why don't they just start Giannis on the block? Like, just go ahead and put him behind the defense so they can't even trap him. Then the game he gets hurt, that's exactly what they do. They start posting Giannis up a lot more. And I'm like, what took so long to even realize this? Like, instead of making him a dribbler and have to dribble through traffic, let's just go ahead and put a 6'11" guy by the rim.
Yeah, and I think that the Bud comparison is apt. And let's not forget the Nuggets too. Let's not forget to talk about them. But I'll kind of lead into that with who would you rather have, each of you? Would you rather have Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown or Nikola Jokic and just had a brain fart? You know who I'm talking about? Jamal Murray.
Murray.
Jamal Curry.
Similar aged. And both teams that advanced to the conference finals in their own conference. How do we feel about either of those teams? So if you had to pick, which duo would you pick? Zach.
Yeah, that's a really tough one. So you're looking at a couple wings or more of like a traditional post player and primary ball handler / scorer. That's tough. Age-wise, Jokic is 25, I believe. Murray's still early 20s. I think if I had to start a team, I might go with that too because Murray can obviously score the crap out of the ball, get you 50 on occasion. And Jokic is just so versatile as far as we can run the offense through him. He obviously is one of the best passers we've seen in our lifetime from a big man perspective. And he also can score in a ton of different ways. And I think that does give you a lot of options and kind of maybe the antithesis to how a lot of teams are setting up, similar to Boston. So they have Tyson there trying to play defense on Bam. Well, you put him in there against Jokic. Jokic is going to cook him. So you automatically have a leg up in an area where a lot of teams are totally diverting their focus away from. So I think kind of going with that approach could pay some dividends for them down the road. So I think I would go with the Nuggets pair on this one.
Collins, who you like?
So, man, very good question. At first, it was kind of hard to decide, but I think looking at the past NBA Finals, man, I think you need a 6'7", 6'8" guy on the wing. Like, when's the last NBA Finals you've seen that a big man has been like the star contributor? Then, like a Jokic, you can't really play him in every situation just because when teams kind of go small, having him guard people on the perimeter and stuff like that. So I'm going with Tatum and I'm going with Brown because I feel like you can just do more with them in more situations.
Rich, who you got?
Yeah, like they both said, that's a great question. I initially was going to go with Jokic, but Colin's point really stuck out to me. It made me alter some things. I really didn't know if Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown playing together, if they could both reach and maximize their ceilings. But they're both so interchangeable, and they're both so multifaceted, three-level scorers who also, and Jaylen Brown, great defender. Jason Tatum improving on that end as well. And while I love Jokic and Murray, I think that Jokic, yes, we have never seen somebody like him before, but there are times where he can become unplayable. And Jamal Murray, I mean, he's a hell of a talent, hell of a shooter, hell of a competitor. But we're going to see a lot of people his size or his stature doing that same thing for years to come. And it's just very rare where you have 2 6'7", 6'8" wings in their primes growing up together to kind of build with. Can't pass that one up.
Yeah, it is a good question. I just want to echo what you guys said and really pat the guy that asked it on his back. I thought it was a really excellent and insightful question. But yeah, I honestly go with Murray and Jokic. I think that Murray is kind of what a lot of guards have been, but honestly, like he dropped 50 a couple of times in the playoffs. Like he made a jump this bubble that I didn't know was possible for him. And he went from an 18 point per game guy to like maybe jumped above Donovan Mitchell in terms of like how I will think about them starting next NBA season. Because like I don't know, he really showed me something in this playoff run, and came through in the clutch multiple times. And it was either him or Jokic. And Jokic is kind of what we always hoped Marc Gasol would be as Grizzlies fans, where he wants the moment. I mean, I've seen him hit multiple clutch buckets in the fourth. The Nuggets were, one crazy Anthony Davis 3-pointer away from winning that game on a clutch Jokic bucket. People will never remember that because obviously everyone will think about the AD3. Just like last year, the Kawhi shot kind of stifled the Jimmy Butler, layup that put the Sixers even tied, and then that crazy Kawhi shot moved them forward. But yeah, I like the Jokic Murray pairing a lot, and I think it's very unique, as Zach mentioned. And I'm about that life. I'm a big fan of the Nuggets now. I hated on them for the longest time and never thought they could do what they did, but they finally made it. And I think that that's something you can really build around. I think it's easier to get serviceable 3-and-D wings and put them around Jokic and Murray. I'm not talking about Jeremy Grant or some of the other guys they threw out there. I think it's easier to do that than it would be for the Celtics to bring in, a really good big man or a really good point guard. That win. I mean, they did. They brought in a really good point guard, and we saw that wasn't enough. So I'm going with Jokic and Murray. But again, it's like it's a really close call and almost an impossible question to answer. You guys have any other thoughts on the Nuggets? What you saw in that Lakers series?
I mean,
they needed just another guy.
Yeah, I mean, Jeremy Grant, like if he gives them 3 or 4 threes, they're going to win that game. But he was mostly giving them going 1 for 4, 1 for 5.
Yeah.
And then the bench play, like Michael Porter Jr. is obviously a defensive liability, and didn't give him so much in the way of offense to justify his presence on the floor. But yeah, I mean, I think both the Celtics and the Nuggets are one guy away, or one of their young guys making a crazy jump. And Tatum has kind of done that this year, but Brown has consistently gotten better. But I don't know if he has an all-star level year, or he might. I think odds are he's an all-star at some point in his career, just because that happens. I mean, shit, like Kyle Korver was an all-star in 2016 or whenever that was, 2013, whenever the Hawks made it.
East, baby.
Yeah.
Man,
so
I think Brown can be an all-star. Like, I mean, it's hard, man, playing basketball when you got offensive mindsets like Kemba Walker out there, Gordon Hayward out there, Jason Tatum out there, Enes Kanter when he plays, Marcus Smart when they let him off his leash, and then Jason Tatum. It's like, man, it's kind of hard to find your number sometimes and figure out, man, how can I still get mine while they still get theirs? And I know I'd be looking at the end of some games like, man, Jason or Brown needs to do more, and he would still have 22 points at the end of the game, 23 points at the end. And what is he, around 22, 23 years old? Like,
yeah, he's 23. Tatum's 22, and Brown's 23.
Yeah, so I think in all likelihood, man, I think he can become an all-star. I just think it goes back to just how they play and, man, kind of figuring out how can I efficiently put up those type of numbers while still getting us to a win.
The problem with it is he's like the third option, third or fourth option, depending on who's on the court. And like you said, the ball dominance of Tatum and Kemba, and he's relegated to corner three guy. And he's way overqualified for corner three guy, but that's just the way he has to play in this system. So it's almost like too much feast in the dominant ball handler, shot creators, and not enough like ability for him to stretch his wings. He might be a trade away from that team where he James Hardens and takes control of a franchise and ends up being like a guy that we never thought he could be. I think he can do that. I'm just saying if he remains on the Celtics, will he ever reach his ceiling? We haven't seen him be able to do that so far.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Like I think that's the thing. Like I think he could go to any team, and be that starting two and really just take off. You know what I'm saying? But that's not really his role right now. As far as the Nuggets, they miss Will Barton for sure. They have a lot of pieces. But I think they're still missing something. Shout out to Troy Daniels as well, former Grizzly who started the season with the Lakers. Didn't like his minutes, so he got bought out and signed with the Nuggets, where he then proceeded to not get any run in the playoffs, and now he will not get a ring if the Lakers win. So shout out to Troy Daniels. Great business decision, man. I hope you're doing great.
Shout out Troy Daniels. I saw him in the Apple Store once in Memphis. It's like, got a picture with him, so we're boys.
Okay.
Yeah. That's boys. I think he's actually the only NBA player I have an actual picture with. I'm pretty sure, which is kind of funny. So shout out my boy, Paul Millsap. That they need to get that guy's contract off the books. He gave him some big moments, and he's a vet. And I don't think he detracts. I don't think he's like a net minus. He might very well be in some of the games, but you know what I mean. My eyeballs don't tell me he's like so bad that he's unplayable. But for what money he's making, I think that the Nuggets need another guy there that's maybe a little younger, and maybe peak Paul Millsap would have been awesome. Obviously, like Atlanta Hawks, Paul Millsap. We just didn't see that in this particular run. So obviously bright future. I mean, that's a joke that people make all the time for up and coming teams, but the Nuggets and Celtics are, the fucking West, man. And let's throw two more duos into the picture. Do you take Luka and Porzingis over, where do you put them in terms of, do you take them over Jamal Murray or Jokic? Or what about Simmons and Embiid? I mean, there's a lot of young tandems.
I'd take Luka
and Porzingis. Yeah.
You take him over. That's the thing. I think you probably take Luka and anyone over. Because Luka's probably the clear number one of all of those players.
I'd take Luka and Anthony Tolliver, man.
The Luka tax. Take Luka and John Wall's contract.
I'd be too scared of Porzingis. I don't honestly know, if you adding him into that pair, that doesn't persuade me one way or the other. It's all about Luka being in that pair. Yeah. And Anthony Tolliver, that's a good one. I don't know if he fits in the young category, but
all right. Well, let me ask you this then: John Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. or Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson?
John Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr.
All right.
I just have an injury. I know someone's going to be on the court, I'm always going to be scared to pick them in something like that. That's like a big thing with Porzingis for me.
Goes for Jaren too, though.
That's true.
That's a tough
He can't stay
question,
on the court.
That's a good point.
You just sit here and think of these questions all day long, man, to mess with us. But I really,
No, I just right now
Yeah,
just
for real,
in my bag, dude. Got a fucking limoncello
Yeah.
LaCroix. Feeling
Ooh,
myself.
seems
that's
like
the-
you're on the Miami
that's the
Heat
best
team,
one.
bro. Just in your bag today.
Yeah.
But I think ceiling wise, goodness, like I said, man, I'm gonna stick to my principles, man. It's hard for me to pass up on big wings that are versatile, so I'm going with Brandon Ingram and Zion Williams. I think the safe bet, the safest pick, if you include injuries, is of course Ja and Jaren, just because Zion, you don't know if he's going to be on the court, but if they're on the court, yeah, I'm taking Brandon Ingram and Zion.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair pick. I've made Zion my sworn enemy, despite the fact I'm sure he's a great young man, so I can never pick him in anything. And I hope he fails at everything in life.
Yeah.
Except for I hope I hope he has a fantastic existence. I just hope that we can stop beating his dick before he even gets an erection. You know what I mean? Like I know it's an aggressive sexual metaphor there, but I feel like that was called for at that point.
Got to take that up with Joe Cowley, man.
Yeah. You're right. Derek Holt, who you guys know, asked, "Damn Sam, why do you hate kids?" And my response to that is, I don't hate kids. I hate Deuce Tatum. What else we got here? Yeah, exactly. It's not his kid status that I hate.
He has like fan pages on Instagram. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, just get him the fuck out of my face. I will tell you this: Celtics fans don't care about him. Like, and John Morant's daughter is very cute, but if I have to watch when we're in the playoffs, like however many games of intros where they show her in the audience and talk about her, I will be annoyed by that as well. I'm not a favorite. I don't play favorites when it comes to this. It always annoys me. What else? What other topics did you have, Zach, in mind besides the finals and kind of what we have going forward? Do you have any other Grizzlies stuff you want to discuss?
No, we made our predictions. I think we're good to go.
Collins, would you rather have Joel Embiid? No, I was kidding. Did you guys hear? That? Oh wait, hang on. Derek Cole responded. Deuce rules. One of the Celtics win. Just so I keep seeing him. All right, now you're trolling me. Okay, so you're out here. I saw a trade where the Sixers are going to try to get Harden because they're going to hire D'Antoni. Did you guys see this?
No, I hadn't heard
Does
this
D'Antoni
one.
want him?
I did not.
What'd you say?
Oh,
Does D'Antoni want him?
Yeah, they're still boys. Yeah. Despite what?
Man.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't actually know that. I've not talked to Mike. I've not
They're
talked
really
to James.
hiring D'Antoni. Oh my gosh.
But the theory is that they hired D'Antoni, and then D'Antoni, people are talking Embiid for Harden, and they just try the Rockets experiment in the East, which I think would be awesome. Like personally, just because I would love to see it happen. And I think and this is what Simmons said on his podcast, but I think it's positive either way. I feel like either he sucks and the Sixers fans immediately turn on him, and that would be hilarious, or he's good and we have another good team in the East. But I will tell you, I'm tired of the Rockets experiment. Like, I'm fucking out on the Rockets doing this. I don't know. Like, I need something massive to change. I don't know. And this would be such a massive change.
So the Heat honestly do the Rockets experiment way better than the Rockets did. Like, they space the floor. They don't shoot. Like, they only shot prior to tonight in the series. They only shot 30% from three, the high volume on threes, but they still
have because the Heat move the ball. The Rockets play
a dominant big man. So, like, that's something that Houston just doesn't even care about, doesn't even try. You know, they had Capella. They had a double-double guy, and they're like, nah, forget that. We don't want him in there. We want Jeff Green to play those center minutes. So Miami's like – and they have the chemistry, and that's obviously a big part of it. Bringing in Westbrook didn't make a ton of sense with that experiment. So it's like they are dancing around. They were committed. Now they're not committed. They're trying a few different things, but ultimately it's the same scheme. But it just isn't working for him.
Yeah, it's just not
at all
sustainable. I mean, the reason Capella was shipped out was to make Westbrook more comfortable, to open up the driving lanes and open up the paint for him to be able to drive, because he's not a threat to shoot from the outside. He needs to drive. So it's just there. Yeah, that's done. That whole.
Well, hang on a sec. I'm getting a text from Westbrook here right now, and he told me to tell you guys that he had COVID right before the bubble, and that he was coming back from a hamstring or a quad injury, which is a notably difficult injury to come back from, especially as a wing player that relies on athleticism and quickness, and to not write him out yet. So, I'm just reporting that.
Russ has your number, but y'all don't have a picture together. That's
no, I'm not flashy like that.
I feel it. Just low key.
Yeah, exactly. Like me and Troy, it was just like, hey, hanging out at the Apple store, send,
Didn't you walk dogs with Tyus Jones or something too?
Yeah, that's true. Tyus, forgot one of my dog boys, downtown dog boys. Congrats to him and his husky and his new child. Congrats to my boy Tyus. But again, we exist together as dog owners. We don't take pictures together. That's just kind of I'm not going to be like, hey man, like, can I grab a quick pic? Like, I feel like there's 1,000 white guys that have asked him that, to have beards, and I'm not going to be the 1,001st white guy with a beard to ask him that.
So you really keep all your NBA relationships like in their own boxes. You got like Apple Store guy, downtown dog guy, strictly texting conversation guy.
Yeah, Russ is my like when his ears are burning because people are talking shit about him on a podcast guy. And he texts me and says, so, I mean, I'm just, now that I've reported Russ's art, I'm just saying, like, had COVID. We don't know the long-term effects of that. And then coming back from a quad injury, third team All-NBA this year. Are we out on Russ? Are we prepared to put him in a box and ship him to Timbuktu, or Collins is throwing up his hands right now?
I like Russ, man. I really just don't think that he fit the Houston Rockets system. Like, I mean, they're predicated on shooting threes, and I mean, I get it up and down. Yeah, he fits that, but just his whole. I mean, you watch Russ over the past few years at OKC, man. He did most of his stuff by points, assists, rebounds. Like the triple double was his thing now. And he all of a sudden gets to the Houston Rockets, and it's like he's playing center because they get rid of Clint Capella, so they need Russ to get down there in the post and get points around the rim. I just didn't like that whole experiment. Like it wasn't set up for success for me. So I don't really blame Russ for that. I kind of blame the management and just how they kind of coached Russ in that situation.
Well, it was Harden that wanted Russ too. Harden said, "Get Chris Paul the hell out of here and bring in Russ because they're actual friends apparently."
They should have got Harden out of there, man.
Which doesn't make sense to me because, that just tells me where Harden's head is. Like, he would rather have a guy that very obviously doesn't fit him as well, just because he likes him more, as opposed to a guy that maybe they butt heads a little bit, but they win more. Like, I mean, that to me, like, you nearly make the finals and probably win a title against that Cavs team in 2018, and then instead, Chris Paul gets hurt and you maybe hold it against him when he was with the Rockets. But yeah, I mean, the Rockets, I'm out on them. I will tell you that I'm curious to see what happens with the Clippers. Does Paul George he can opt out? Imagine if he did that, and he's just like, "Fuck it." I didn't think we were going to win a championship anyway, as he said in his presser. I'm curious to know what they do. Lou Williams had a terrible playoffs, and people are talking shit about him in the playoffs recently, talking about how he's just a regular season guy, never delivers. So a lot of possible shifting in the West. I will tell you, I do not believe in the Jazz though. They have now taken over my definitely don't believe in you guys spot, formerly held by the Denver Nuggets. How do we feel about the power struggle of the West? I mean, are the Grizzlies even in the playoffs next year?
I mean,
everybody healthy? No.
I don't think so. I think it's just, even no matter like how miraculous, the season could be, there's just so much talent, already. And then there's other powers that weren't even present this year that are going to be coming back next year. It's just going to be a dogfight. It's really tough. I'm going to have to say no.
But what if the Lakers, LeBron, year 30, age 36, he's going to take a step back at some point. And I have this fear.
We got Clippers, right? Nuggets,
Maybe. I mean, maybe the Clippers eat themselves over the offspring. I mean, I don't know. Oh, go ahead. I mean, theoretically, Mavs
Dallas,
are, yeah.
Houston. I mean, they're getting in the playoffs. James Harden. The media would love New Orleans in there. We'll see. I'm still out on them.
If healthy, I get the if healthy thing. But then again, if healthy, then we get Jaren for 82 and Justice for 82, which we've never seen. Yeah. So those guys are getting better every year. They're still not even close to their primes. So I'd like to see us fully healthy as well.
Yeah,
I think Ja's going to make a big jump. I think Jaren's going to make a big jump.
You could see the Thunder falling out. One reason Billy Donovan didn't want to stay there is they're kind of.
He wanted to go to a solid team like the Bulls.
Yeah.
We can't forget about Golden. We can't forget about Golden State.
Yeah.
Golden State.
They're back.
What about Phoenix?
I don't believe in them. Not till they do it.
San Antonio.
Yeah, I'm just saying possible, but
the West is a bloodbath. I mean, we should be in the East anyway. If we're looking at a fucking U.S. map that I grew up looking at in school, the Grizzlies should be in the East. But that's another story for another day.
Yeah, and I suspect if they ever do an expansion, they kick us over, which would be just fine by me.
Right, I would be perfectly fine with that.
Yeah.
I really think at full strength, I think Portland's the third best team in the West.
I forgot about Portland.
Yeah, I mean, so we're forgetting
Trevor
about teams.
Rodney Hood.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Trevor Reeves is kind of like aged out. I think Rodney Hood gave him some solid minutes. I don't know,
Zach Collins. They had some guys.
Collins, man. I know you guys share a last name, but tell me what he's done. Like everyone says that, and then it's like, well, what has he done? Everyone's like, oh man, he plays tough, he rebounds, and it's like
next level handsome. That's all it is.
He's a 6'11" guy that you can put out there and play a power forward, play him at center. I mean, you got Wayne Gabriel as your starter, so I would rather take a chance on. I'm just saying they got 3 players that didn't get a chance to play in that series, which I think bumped them up to around 3rd place. I'm not saying they're superstars, but I think you need your role play. That's all I'm saying, Sam. I'm
just saying I've heard.
Hold on, Zach Collins is calling me, man. Hold on.
Yeah. Hey, field a text from him. Let me know what he says. Have him text me what he does here, and then be like, hey, here's what Zach Collins is good at. Just bang that text out and send it to me. He can join Russ Club. But we'll get into the same thing as Justice Winslow.
He took the baton and mine.
The same thing as Justice Winslow. He doesn't do the same. They're not even the same player at all. Justice is
my sarcasm is that Justice hasn't really proven anything yet either.
Yeah, no, he doesn't play. I'm not counting Justice as a positive until he proves that he cannot get bizarre injuries at every turn of his career. But hopefully he does. The guys like him. It seems like based on bullshit social media stuff. But yeah. Any other NBA takes? Memphis Tigers.
No, the Duke Memphis players. They got Grayson Allen, Justice, and Tyus who all played together.
Oh, speaking of which, Grayson Allen's going to be on JJ's pod tonight or tomorrow, so that should be very entertaining. I'm sure they'll talk a lot of Duke white guy shooter hate, and then no doubt Grayson will get to talk about the Grizz. I'm sure Ja's going to get a lot of love on that episode. And
then JJ could be like,
he just doesn't shoot, man. Yeah, he just can't shoot.
Yeah, he's not.
Here's the thing.
Curry, so
here's the other thing about
point guard.
Luka Doncic can't shoot, but no one ever talks about that. He shoots 31% from 3, which is bad. It's well below league average. Because every now and then he gets a step back 3 in a big moment, and people think of him as a good shooter, but he cannot shoot. But yet everyone slobs on his knob and talks about how John Morant's shooting is his extreme weakness. And I just let's stay woke out there, everybody. Stay woke.
We got to compare.
I'm getting a text from Luka right now. No, I'm just kidding. It's in Slovenian, so I can't read it. All right.
Yeah.
Is that it, Zach? You got to close us out here, guy.
All right. Thanks for listening to the Backdoor Cut Show. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts by searching Backdoor Cut Show. And thank you for listening also on Dash Radio's Nothing But Net channel. You can also check out our website, the-barnburner.com. Until next time, go Grizz. Usually how we close it out, but I think we still need some go Grizz love. Enjoy the NBA Finals.
Collins, thanks for coming on, man.
Appreciate you guys, man.
Peace.
Yeah, man.